the Israel-Hamas ceasefire agreement, developments and implications. As of early Sunday morning, January 19, 2025, the anticipated ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has been delayed. The ceasefire was scheduled to commence at 8:30 a.m. local time in Gaza, 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time. However, the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, reported that Hamas did not provide the list of hostages slated for release, a key component of the agreement. IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari stated, "According to the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, the ceasefire will not come into effect as long as Hamas does not fulfill its commitment to the agreement." He added that Israeli military operations in Gaza would continue until Hamas complies with the terms. Hamas attributed the delay to technical field reasons and reaffirmed its commitment to the ceasefire deal. Despite this assurance, there is no clear indication of when the agreement will be implemented. In the meantime, IDF strikes have persisted in both northern and central Gaza, with reports of casualties and continued hostilities. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu emphasized that the ceasefire would not proceed without the receipt of the hostages' names, as previously agreed upon. He warned that any violations of the agreement by Hamas would have significant security implications. The situation remains fluid, and it is advisable to monitor reliable news sources for the latest updates on the ceasefire's status and any developments in the region. Welcome to Happy Old Gringo Podcast Middle East Matters, the podcast where we delve into the latest developments shaping the world. I'm your host, Daniel. Today we focus on the recent ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, exploring its intricacies, the delays in its implementation, the political ramifications within Israel, and the broader implications for the Middle East. Stay with us for an in-depth analysis. On January 17, 2025, after extensive negotiations mediated by Qatar, Egypt, and the United States, Israel and Hamas reached a pivotal ceasefire agreement aimed at halting hostilities in the Gaza Strip and facilitating the release of hostages held by Hamas since the conflict's escalation in October 2023. The agreement is structured in multiple phases. Phase 1. Hamas commits to releasing 33 Israeli hostages, including infants, children, women, and men over the age of 50. In exchange, Israel will release approximately 737 Palestinian prisoners and detainees, encompassing women and minors. This phase is designed to build trust and set the stage for subsequent steps.
Subsequent phases. These will involve further negotiations addressing military withdrawals, the release of additional hostages, and significant reconstruction efforts in Gaza. The ultimate goal is to pave the way for a sustainable peace and the rebuilding of war-torn areas.
The ceasefire was slated to commence at 8:30 a.m. local time in Gaza on January 19, 2025. However, the implementation faced immediate hurdles. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, reported that Hamas did not provide the list of hostages scheduled for release, a critical component of the agreement. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu emphasized that the ceasefire would not proceed without this list, stating, "The ceasefire will not come into effect as long as Hamas does not fulfill its commitment to the agreement." Hamas attributed the delay to technical field reasons and reaffirmed its commitment to the ceasefire deal. Despite these assurances, the lack of clarity on the timeline has led to continued military operations in Gaza, with reports of ongoing IDF strikes in both northern and central regions. The ceasefire agreement has triggered significant political shifts within Israel's government. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, leader of the far-right Otzma Yehudit party, resigned in protest against the deal. While his departure does not immediately destabilize Prime Minister Netanyahu's government, it underscores internal divisions regarding the approach to the Gaza conflict. Ben-Gvir's resignation reflects the sentiments of certain factions that oppose negotiating with Hamas, viewing it as a concession that undermines Israel's security stance. In a related development, reports have emerged that among the individuals to be released is the body of an Israeli military officer who was killed over a year ago. This aspect of the agreement highlights the complex and sensitive nature of prisoner exchanges and the profound impact on the families involved. The inclusion of deceased individuals in the exchange underscores the humanitarian dimensions intertwined with the political and military considerations. The delay in implementing the ceasefire highlights the fragility of agreements in conflict zones and the myriad factors that can impede progress. The involvement of international mediators like Qatar, Egypt, and the United States underscores the global stakes in achieving stability in the Middle East. The ceasefire's success or failure will have profound implications not only for Israeli and Palestinian relations, but also for regional dynamics and international diplomatic efforts. As the situation unfolds, the world watches closely, hopeful that the ceasefire will take effect and lead to lasting peace. The coming days are critical, and the actions of both Israeli and Hamas leadership will determine the trajectory of this fragile agreement. We will continue to monitor developments and provide updates as more information becomes available. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Happy Old Gringo. Stay tuned for more updates and in-depth analyses on the region's most pressing issues. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and ring the bell so you can know when I release my next podcast. Until next time, I'm Daniel, signing off. Updates. After the prelude was written, and while I was doing the podcast update, came through concerning the 3 names have been released to Israel, as requested in order to maintain the ceasefire. As of 11:15 a.m. Israel time, the ceasefire has begun.